Welcome back. We interrupt our broadcasting now because in a little under 2 hours, the International Association of Athletic Federations will decide whether to ban the Russian track and field team from major sporting events, including the 2016 Olympics. Ahead of that, in a news conference in Moscow this evening, Russia's sports minister accused the IAAF of concealing the results of doping tests since 2008, saying that Russian ones made up only a small fraction of them. Well, we can speak now to the Russian sports minister, Vitaly Mutko. Mr. Mutko, thank you for coming on to speak to us again. I would like to start with those accusations that you've made today, serious ones. You said that the IAAF have been concealing doping test results for several years. How do you know that? And if you believe that's true, why would they be doing that?
As for the IAAF, those are not my accusations. It is this criminal investigation that was launched in France, but it was launched against the previous administration of IAAF, which had an election recently, and now it has a new executive board and a new president, Mr. Coe. And I hope that with his rise, IAAF will have a more reasonable policies. So those are not my accusations. It's a statement of fact. Last year, IAAF presented more than 150 tests to the world, and that is positive tests done in 2009, 2010. Those included Russian athletes, but for 5 years, those tests were left unpublicized, and even athletes and national federations didn't know about that. Like I said, doping is not an issue of one specific national federation or country. It is an international issue that we can only tackle together, joining the efforts of states, athletes, and national federations and international federations.
Given what you've just said, I'd like to know, how do you feel about the fact that the IAAF is set to pass judgment on Russian athletics, given that the organisation itself is at the centre of a corruption scandal?
Like I said, the International Athletics Associations Federation, its new board and its new administration, its new secretariat have taken a decision, and we hope that similarly they will take decisions to strengthen the anti-doping services and agencies. The existing agency, in our opinion, has completely blown up its credibility, and I would like to emphasize that Russia has delivered on all the recommendations presented to it. We suspended and banned from competitions many athletes and coaches, notwithstanding their previous victories. And now we expect the International Federation to do the same. As for today's session, today's meeting, which is examining the report of this this very first report of an independent commission that the whole world has been studying, I can tell you that we've been working very closely in close cooperation with the International Federation. Russia's National Federation has proposed and laid out its plans for changing the situation, and those plans are very clear. More than that, we've already taken a number of decisions, as in we've changed the leadership, the secretariat of the National Federation. We've sacked the head coach and many other specialists. Russia's National Federation has altered its practices in combating the use of doping. We have decided not to take athletes to the next World Championship in disciplines where there have been doubts. We've only taken a very new, refreshed team. So we hope that the International Federation Federation will listen to our reasoning, and if they believe that those measures are not sufficient, in this case we state our readiness as the government of the Russian Federation to assist the International Federation in finalizing those reforms. Even if they take decisions to suspend the activities of our national federation, we are still prepared to work jointly to bring Russia's regulations in compliance with the necessary standards of lAAF and of WADA, but those requirements must be formulated. Secondly, we expect that any anti-doping activities must first and foremost be aimed at protecting those athletes who have integrity, who have not been engaged in doping. So penalizing those athletes who have shown integrity is unacceptable. If some athletes and their coaches try to deceive the world, they must be penalized very harshly, but honest athletes must not suffer because of them. The Russian National Federation unites over 500 athletes, and some 70 athletes out of those are members of the international sporting pool. They spend 80% of their time outside Russia, being supervised by international anti-doping agencies and organizations. Their tests are controlled by WADA. So speculating that Russia or its national federation have been fumbling with those doping tests, of course, would not be correct. We hope that the International Federation and the world of athletics, of track and field, will find some decision, even if they believe it is necessary to give some period for the Russian Federation to get back on its feet. Even if they take this decision, the athletes who are honest, we hope that they will retain their right to participate in competitions under the lAAF auspices, provided their integrity.
Mr. Mitko, you've been clearly in communication with IAAF officials. Do you have any idea as to what they are going to announce? Could they impose a blanket ban on Russian athletes?
Of course, I do have an idea. Following a statement by President Putin that he made publicly 2 days ago when he outlined Russia's position, as you know, he said that on the one hand, indeed, doping is a very big issue, but it is not just an issue of Russia, and we must do everything we can to protect the honest athletes, and we also must stand up for their well-being. On the other hand, he has tasked us to work hand in hand together with international organizations and look at Russia's entire anti-doping policies and how they are formulated. So that's what we've been doing for the past 2 days. I've had dozens of conversations with the president of the International Federation, Mr. Koi, with the president of WADA, Mr.
президентом нашей международной организации ВАДА и с другими,
the president of WADA and other heads and leaders of international sports. We presented our outlook to them today, and as far as I understand today, we're not really talking about disqualifying or banning or suspending the Russian National Federation. I can tell you more, this would not really produce any effect. We need to realize if today you suspend a specific national federation or national team, this would mean tremendous damage to the development of this sport in that country and worldwide. We've had experience of such actions and they never produced any desirable results. So I believe we should be balanced here, very careful, and take the decisions I've already described to you. Russia and its sporting federations in turn are willing to provide full support to the international authorities, including the International Athletics Federation, to bring this kind of work to some kind of result.
You're talking about looking forward and improving the situation. I'd like to just look back for a moment, how would you assess the doping situation in Russian athletics and in Russian sport? How bad, in your opinion, is the situation?
Знаете, я хотел бы еще раз сказать следующее.
I would like to tell you once again that in the past 4 or 5 years, the Russian Federation has gone a long way in combating the use of doping. We have established a system for battling against doping. Following the ratification of the UNESCO Convention of 2006, we have done a lot, including we've opened the borders of Russia to take samples of athletes outside the Russian Federation for testing. And therefore, we've made all of our athletes open and eligible for anti-doping tests in case they want to participate in international competitions. Today, all of those anti-doping tests are supervised by international bodies and organizations. Secondly, we introduced administrative penalties for the use of doping, up to large monetary penalties and resignation for sporting officials. Thirdly, with support from the IOC and WADA, and following a WADA model, we have created the independent anti-doping agency in Russia. It's called ROSADA, the Russian Anti-Doping Agency. We've also created a state-of-the-art anti-doping laboratory in Russia, which also follows the role model, the best practices of WADA. It started off as a lab located in a basement. Today, it is a state-of-the-art, cutting-edge facility. We've invested over 1 billion rubles into its creation. Many of its specialists are authors of some of the most advanced research and works in the world on combating doping. A number of them have received American grants and have gone abroad to work for international institutions. We have been doing all that work with coordination with international experts and organizations. We've also hosted the University Games, the Track and Field World Championship, the Olympics and the Paralympics in Sochi, the World Championship of Aquatic Sports in Kazan this year. Setting up anti-doping activities in Russia has been acknowledged by all of those international organizations at a very high level. Basically, that was an A++ if you were to give it a school grade. Moreover, I could tell you that for every stage of doping control, we were willing and ready to open our proceedings for foreign specialists. We were recommended to work with the Norwegian Anti-Doping Agency. We also were proposed cooperation with an anti-doping laboratory in Lausanne. We never interfered in those activities because the system of accreditation, certification, it's all in the hands of WADA. This has nothing to do with the Russian sporting bodies. It is an international institution. Of course, we finance those activities. The Russian government spends no less up to 5 million euros annually in the work of the anti-doping laboratory. We also invest about 1 million annually for anti-doping programs. We also contribute to the UNESCO Fund for Development programs. The Russian laboratory takes about 15,000 various tests, and up to 5% of them are actually tests, that samples that have to do with bio-passports. And basically, this testifies to the openness of Russian athletes for international scrutiny. What's even more surprising, some 6 months ago, this system was characterized as highly efficient, but following some documentaries, some investigations and accusations, this commission was set up, and now it has produced certain recommendations saying that the Russian system is not in compliance with the international code regarding the use of doping. And one more thing that I would like to note, the Russian national team, of course, is a large team. We're one of the sporting leaders, and I agree with the conclusions of the commission that probably Russia does deserve some special approach. But I would like to note to you that out of the 3,000 athletes, 2 athletes are part of this international testing pool. They are outside the competencies of Russian anti-doping agencies. They participate in international events, world championships and cups, diamond leagues, and so on. So they are tested by their international federations and other agencies, and that information is stored. In the case with track and field athletes, it is stored in the International Athletics Association's agency. So we are not in control when it comes to this area. But of course, doping is a big issue for all countries, not just Russia. We annually disqualified to the order of some 80 athletes, up to 80 athletes. Sometimes it's a lifetime disqualification, regardless of their previous victories and titles. Russia needs fair play. Russia wants to have clean sports, and we are determined. We have contributed and invested vast resources, not in order for some athlete and their coaches to sneak their way to victory, violating our anti-doping procedures. We are determined to impose, to enforce fair play in sports. But it's important for us that those standards and those requirements are the same for all national federations, for all countries. We are ready to communicate, to cooperate with WADA and reattest, recertify our laboratories and services, and once again refurbish our national federation. But we would like that to be a finite process, not an indefinite one, so that we would be insured against some other commission emerging tomorrow or the day after tomorrow and allegedly finding something else that's wrong. We would like international organizations to be objective, balanced, and mature.
And Mr. Mutko, just one final question, if I may, because it would be remiss of me not to ask. This entire scandal, it arose because of the accusations made in a German TV documentary on ARD, which showed whistleblowers making claims about doping in Russian athletics. Have you or any of your team been to speak to those whistleblowers to assess the validity of their claims?
Конечно.
Of course, I've had a chance to talk to some of them, but you need to bear in mind that all the athletes whose testimonies have been used in the documentary, they have all been disqualified, they've all been penalized. And there's one more thing that we need to bear in mind. Russia is a democracy with its own constitution, which protects the rights of an individual, privacy rights. We need to realize that any testimony, any evidence collected by unlawful means, through wiretapping, through hidden camera, through phone tapping, they cannot be used as evidence in court. Sadly or fortunately, we've been trying to convey this to our colleagues, to the authors of the German documentary, and to the representatives of international federations who advocate disqualifying athletes based on this kind of evidence. We cannot do that because we have our constitution which protects privacy rights. Even if we take this kind of decision, any individual tomorrow can actually appeal it in a court of first instance, and they will win because those people were equipped with hidden cameras, with phone tapping appliances, and they worked as moles inside the Russian national team. They were talking to people. Of course, facts in the documentary that have been sustained by the findings of the Commission. Of course, we will look at them more closely. We've already suspended or disqualified some of our athletes and their coaches. And today, following this meeting, we will look at all those facts once again. But like I said, an athlete must be proven guilty. Otherwise, we must protect their rights. Athletes have a very short professional span of career. And of course, we also must depart from the premise of the presumption of innocence. And unless their fault, their guilt has been proven, we must protect them. Of course, if their guilt has been proven, then penalty must be stringent. And we are ready to actually examine the proposals for strengthening penalties for the use of doping. We would like to do all those activities together with our colleagues in the IOC, in the lAAF and in WADA. Thank you.
I've been talking to the Russian Sports Minister, Vitaly Mutko. Mr. Mutko, many thanks.